Hi friends, it's Walter from Zimstones by Walter, and today I am going to be working on a new mixed media project using the July kit from the mixed media kit from Trey Jolie Kit Club. The kit is really cool this month, and what I received as part of the mixed media kit is this MDF house that I'm going to use as a base for my project. This really cute set of Parisian art shutter doors. They open and can put a picture inside. I'm going to use that on the house. This great vintage floral stencil that I really like and I'm looking forward to using in here as well. I also received these they're called melange art pebbles. They're like those dewdrops, but larger. The dewdrops that we use on cards, the acrylic bubbles, they're just a little bit larger than those. Some distress texture paste, which will be great, as well as these four really cool, I'm trying to think of the powders that you can mix in for coloring. One is a salmon pink, one is a spring green, one is a bright yellow, brilliant yellow, and one is orange. It's pumpkin orange. And I think that these are going to be great to mix in with that distress paste to use on the stencil to bring in some colorful flowers into the project. In addition to using stuff from the mixed media kit, I had also bought the card and tag kit for the month, which was really fabulous. I'll be using that in some other projects, and I'll be making a video about that. But in the meantime, I'm going to incorporate a few things from that particular kit into this project. I'm going to use a piece of paper, patterned paper. It has some bricking on it, as well as some florals. I'm going to use that. And this month, it was awesome. There's actually 2 sets of chipboard that came with the card kit. There is the beautiful butterflies and these flowers that I really love. And I know exactly what I'm going to do with them in my project. So I'm going to incorporate at least one of each, if not maybe one butterfly, maybe both of the flowers. We'll see. Then I'm also going to incorporate a few things from my own stash. I have this small handwritten note that I think will look really cool and go with the theme of my project. I have this sticker that is some like vintage advertising, and I've been looking for a way to incorporate that into a project, and I think this will work really nicely with this one. I'm going to use some paper flowers that I have on hand that I had purchased from a Little Birdie company. I'll decide on the colors based on how this project progresses. And the last thing I'm going to use is I purchase a lot of older publications and a lot of postcards. And I go ahead and scan them so that I can use the images over and over again. This one, as you can tell, just by the watermarking and the grunge that's on there, the postmark, as well as this beautiful writing, is older, and it was estimated that this was from actually it's posted right here in 1907. And it's a beautiful print, and I'm going to incorporate this as well. But instead of using the actual postcard, I went ahead and scanned it, like I said, and I printed it out onto some 65-pound cardstock. And I'm going to cut that and use that in the project. And I also had, when I saw the house, I automatically thought of some sentiments to put onto the project that came to mind as soon as I saw the house. And that is, a house is filled with people, a home is filled with memories. And so I'm going to cut those out and incorporate those in there as well. So let's go ahead and get this project underway. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is to go ahead and get this paper adhered down onto the house. And what I want is to line up so that the bricks are right on the chimney, and it's not going to be a 100% fit. It could be. I could cut that strip there and bring it down here, which would look cool. The other thing I can do is actually, and I think this might work better, is I'm going to line this up. And then when I go ahead and cut off the excess, I'll have some excess brick paper that I can put up and cover up more of the chimney with the brick. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then for that part of the roof that won't be covered, I can use a scrap, or I can, because I'm going to be adding some other mediums onto here, so it won't even be noticeable. So we're going to start with getting some Mod Podge down onto the house to go ahead and be able to get that paper stuck down. So I'm going to be fairly generous with the Mod Podge. That's a thick paper, and so you want to make sure that there's going to be a really strong bond there to keep it adhered down. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this covered with Mod Podge, and then we will go ahead and get the paper stuck down. Okay, so all of my Mod Podge is down. I'm now going to line up the paper, and I want those flowers over in that corner. I want that lined up there with the roof, and make sure that it's level over on this side. And then I'm going to grab my pressure tool for stamping and just run it over that to help get that stuck down and put some pressure on it at the same time so that our paper sticks down there nicely. I like that this particular paper is more neutral, which is why I'm choosing it, because I don't want the paper itself to be the star of the show. It's going to be what we're doing to the paper that's really going to be the star, as well as the other things that we add in. So it's a nice neutral base for this project. And I chose this paper because it has the bricks as well, which I thought would look really cool with the chimney of the house. So that is all sticking down. I'm going to just use a heating tool on low to go ahead and speed up that drying process, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so that's dried, and I went ahead and used just a small pair of detail scissors, to go ahead and cut the excess paper off to the shape of the house. There were 2 scraps that were left. One, very conveniently, fits really nicely to continue that roof line, and then there's just like a little piece there that we can use something to color so you won't even know. So there's that. And then also very conveniently, the piece of bricking that was left over here will fit nicely onto the chimney, and I can just go ahead and glue that part down. And I'm just gonna draw a line that's going to go at the angle that I need for cutting, because I don't want that whole piece just to be there. So I'm just going to connect those 2 there, and I'm just going to do it freehand. You could certainly use a ruler if you'd like, but it doesn't have to be perfection, because chances are some of it may end up getting covered up. So it's not a big deal. And I kind of like the look of things not always being linear and exact, so there. Let's check that out. Yeah, that's gonna work perfect. That'll fit right in there. So I'm gonna get that piece glued down. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. This is a little easier because I can press on that line there and know where to cut. So then we'll get that piece glued down, and then we'll be able to move on to the next step. So that's cut. We have that one cut. I'm going to get those glued down. Okay, so the next thing I want to do in order to give it time to dry is there's already on these doors a little bit of like white and distress, but I want to add a little more. And so I'm going to take some gesso, and I'm just going to take a little bit. I don't want a ton because I don't want to color the whole thing. I just want to add some more distressing before I move on to adding the picture on the inside of there. So I'm just going to take a little on my brush and just go up and down like that. I'm going to grab a little more, come up the sides, just to add that little bit. This is the white gesso, by the way, not clear. And so it's just going to add that little bit of like that whitewash element, just to make it a little more prevalent. Just a little more here in the center. There we go. I could color them all white. I could color them gray. I could add any color. But I like the look of the white. And that's it. Like I said, I wanted to get that done to give it time to dry before putting the picture on the inside, because I didn't want any of that gesso to get onto the picture, the postcard that I had cut out. So next, while that's drying, it's going to be time to do some stenciling. And as I had mentioned, the kit came with this beautiful stencil. I really love it. It's such a nice background. And what I plan to do with it is I'm going to mix some texture paste with some color, some of the colors that came with the kit. And I want to apply just a little bit of the stencil coming down. Might be fun to do it kind of in an off way, maybe slightly coming down on a diamond like that, because that fits right into that shape. I think that would be really fun, and it would add it would be different. It's not something that you would normally expect. So that's what I'm going to do there. In the meantime, I'm going to grab my palette here, and I'm going to clean up my brush. And I'm going to open up this texture paste. And once this is stenciled on there is when I'm going to start to add some of the grunge element, the kind of dating to the piece. And I want to wait until this is on there because I want to have this be a part of that. I need something to help me open that. Let me grab this just to help out. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, so the texture paste. It's not going to take a lot, and I'm not going to worry too much about. I'm going to do it kind of just in sections coming down. So I'm going to grab some of that paste and put it here onto my palette. And I'm going to do that for each of the colors that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to spread them out a bit so that I am not contaminating. We'll start with that and see how far that gets us. I think that's going to be more than enough, though. I also want to make sure that there's just a little bit of a bite to that, a little bit of like some grit. And so I'm going to, last month's kit came with this sand. I'm going to put just a pinch in there into each of them just to get that texture that I'm looking for onto it. There. Just a little bit will do. And the last thing I'm going to do is add in a little bit of coloring. And I have never worked with this particular product before, but I know from working with other products that they can be really strong. And so I don't want like a huge, what do you call it? A tint going into this. I want it to be just a little bit. So I'm just going to use a tool and scoop a little bit of that out, and because that orange is pretty bright. So let's start with just a little bit. I can always add more if I need to. I'm just going to wipe that, move on to the next color, which is like this salmony pink color, which is also pretty strong, pretty bright. Let's get just a little bit of that on here and ready to mix in. Let's see, we're going to put that one there. And then we'll do the yellow, but first I'm going to wipe off that tool so we don't cross-contaminate the colors here. That yellow's really vibrant, so I'm going to be careful with the yellow not to add too much. These colors are really bold and really pretty. And now we're going to go with the green. And we'll get a little bit of the green powder to get mixed in. I didn't wipe off my my little tool that time, simply because green and yellow are fine to mix together. I wasn't worried about that at all. So now I'm going to start with getting this mixed, and instead of using my brush, I am just going to use this tool just to mix it up, because this tool is so easy to wipe off in between. And as you can see, that's a really bright, I'm glad I didn't do a lot more than that, because I don't want it to be too bright. I'm looking for just a nice little bit of orange, because the paper is pretty light. The color in the paper is pretty light, so I wouldn't want to make it too bright and have it really look a lot different and kind of change the aesthetic of the project. So that's wiped off. Now I'm going to mix up that yellow. And again, just looking at the mixing, I'm glad I didn't go a lot more. That's going to be perfect. Just a little bit will do ya. It's funny, sometimes when I'm recording a video like this, I can't remember the exact term for certain things. Like I was trying to remember the name for this particular kind of powder, and I'm racking my brain, and I just couldn't remember exactly the exact terminology for it. But that's okay. I'm sure you understand what I mean when I call it powder, colored powder. It's a tint. And with the green, yeah, you know what? I don't want it too bright. That's kind of a nice muted green. I'm digging that, so I think that's going to stay as well. I'm not going to add more powder into that one either. And lastly, we'll mix up that salmon color. There we go. That looks good. I'm just gonna rest that there for right now. I'm gonna just get that excess texture paste off my brush so it doesn't dilute the color any more than I have there. And now I'm just gonna brush some of that on to the stencil. And I think I'm going to start at the top. We're gonna start off with yellow. I'm just gonna brush that down. Could also obviously use a, actually it might be better to use a palette knife. Let me grab a palette knife. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have a palette knife. I should have had one out to begin with, but I didn't. So we're just gonna get a little bit of that on there. To then be able to bring it up and down the stencil. And I'm not looking for this to like really be, it's just going to be part of the background. So that's why I'm not like too worried about having a lot of extra paste. If I run out, I run out. I can mix some more, but at the same time, again, I'm just looking to get a little bit of coverage here, just to work its way down in the background. I think I will use a little bit more of that yellow and finish it off over here on the side here. Scrape a little more. Obviously, you can tape the stencil down, or you can hold it down using, however you normally do your stencils. With this one, I'm actually just holding it. I think that's fine. It's not really moving, so we're good there. I'm gonna move from the, I don't want the red and the green next to each other, so I think I'm gonna do the green next to the yellow. And I'm just going to start over here with working it in. The reason why I don't want the green and the red next to each other, because I don't want it to look like Christmassy in any way. I want to keep those two colors separated because of that. The other thing to keep in mind is that you don't need a ton of this, because that window is also going to be covering up some of this area. That frame, the shutter frame, so you don't have to have this exactly, this whole area covered because of that. Because some of that will end up getting blocked anyway. Just want to get more of this green to finish off over here. There we go. Now I'm going to move into that orange. And I know, I'm not going to put this down because this isn't dry, but I know that that's going to be there. So I only need to do like the orange and then maybe some of the red, and I'll be okay. So now if I really wanted to be, careful and fancy, I could have like stenciled just the the leaves and the stems with the green, and certain flowers certain colors, but I'm choosing not to do that, which is absolutely fine. You may choose to do it, and if you do, that's you know that's the way you want your design. That is absolutely fine. And last, coming in here with that, they called it salmon, but it really is more of a pinkish red. Coming in with that, getting those flowers on there. And some of that may be covered up by the window, like I said. But it looks like I was being judicious with the amount of paste was a good idea, because, you know, I didn't want to waste it. You worry a bit about not having enough, but I also don't want to waste any of it, because, you know, it's hard to save, because, you know, you put it in a container, and if you don't use it right, you know, within a day or two, it's just going to dry out anyway. So let's bring that up like that. There we go. And our stenciling is done. I actually just want to bring that over there. Get that in. Come down with that. There we go. Scrape that off there. Now, let's remove the stencil and see how that looks. Oh, I like that. That's going to be pretty once it's dry. And it just adds that little bit of color. I do see a little bit here that I need to clean up, so I'm just going to grab that and pick it up, and that you won't even know is there, because it's going to get covered up anyway when we start to add in some grunge and tones into this. So, but I am, since it's still dry, just going to take a rag and wipe that a bit, just so that it doesn't dry there. There, perfect. So I'm going to use a heat tool on low to get that dry, and I'll be back. Okay, that is now dry, and look how pretty that is. It has that little bit of like a metallic sheen. And it came to me as I was drying this, it's pigment powder. I knew it was, I just couldn't think of the word pigment at the time. So we have that done now. And as I had mentioned, we're going to add some grunge onto here. And I'm going to do it with a combination of both sprays and inks. And so the first spray, I'm grabbing my spray box here. The first spray that I'm going to use is from Brutus Monroe, and it's a vintage mist, and it's a kind of a gray. And it adds just that little bit of darkness to like dim things a bit. So I like to do a little bit of that. I'm also going to use their vintage mist that is a brown color, and I'm going to focus that more up towards the chimney and roof area for that. And then last but not least, they have the tea stain. It's which is very tan. It's lighter, and I'm going to focus that down here in the corner. just to get that grunge on there. And when it's dry, remember, it will look a little bit darker, but then when it's dry, it will be a little bit lighter. Again, but you know, it's trying to make it look older and make it look like it isn't brand new. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of a low heat to that to help it dry, and I'll be back. Okay, so that's dry. What I love about it is it kind of calms down. That yellow was a little bright, the orange was a little bright, and that just calmed it down just a little bit so it wasn't so bright, but it adds that nice grunge in that I love. And so there's one more thing I want to do before we move on to those shutters, and that is Brutus Monroe also makes this product called Aqua Splash, and it's an ink-like product that you can, it comes with a little brush built in, and it makes it easier to do like little splashes of color. So I want to do just a little bit of white up there in that corner by the chimney, and I am purposely being really light with it because I don't want too much, but you just tap it and that white will go into place. I use this on cards quite often. And it's just another nice way. I didn't want to cover up like the nice floral there, but just a little bit. And it's just another nice way to add a little bit of age to a project like this. So I'm gonna let that dry, and we're going to then move on to our shutters. Okay, so that's dry. Look at how beautiful that is. Just those little dots. And it's so simple, but it really, it's those little details that add so much to projects like this. I had mentioned moving on to our shutters, and we're going to, but before I do that, I forgot that there was a little more of some distressing I wanted to do around the edges, just to bring it out a little bit more. And so for that, I'm going to be using my Distress ink pads. And for this particular one, I'm going to use the tea dye. And all I'm going to do is just rub it along the edge just to get a little more definition to the shape, but also just to add in a little bit more of that grunge, because I'm somebody that I really love the vintage look and the grunge that comes with it. So, and I think that's gonna do the trick. I might just, we're gonna be covering up some of this, but just get a little bit along like that. And I love it. That looks great. And now we'll be able to move on to our shutters. So we had put that gesso on there, and that's dried, and I think that looks great. It definitely ages them a bit. Something else you can do for aging like that is to go ahead and take, I think for this, I would use the antique linen, just so it's not so bright, if you will, but just to get a little bit on top of that gesso, so there's the white and there's that tannish color. That's number one. If you can see that, I love that. It just ages them a bit more than they were, so that looks great. Next is what I plan to do is have this picture from the postcard inside when you open those doors. And so to achieve that, I need to get this picture cut out. So I'm going to grab a pair of detail scissors, and it doesn't have to be perfect. If you'd like perfect, you could certainly use a trimmer. I am just going to use scissors, and I'm going to end up cutting it down to the size it needs to be anyway. So this first step is just to cut it out to begin with. This postcard I actually found at a great little market in South Boston called the SOA Vintage Market. and they have a ton of old postcards. And I mean, I can just spend hours there going through old postcards, old publications and advertisements. I buy a lot of them because, as I mentioned, I digitize them, but I want to start designing some paper and ephemera to be able to use, some vintage ones. Then what's better than, you know, the copyright is now expired on these particular images. So, you know, on the advertisement, so why not use it? So yeah, that's my plan there. So for this, again, I'm not going to worry too much about having all of the floral in there because there's so much floral on the outside. What I really liked was like that picture of the gentleman standing there kind of framed. So I'm just going to make the line where I need to cut on that way. And over here, I'm just going to fold it a bit so that I know where about I need to cut to get that to fit in there. And I'm just going to cut from that. And it can be a freehand cut, or if you want to use a paper cutter, you certainly can do that. But I don't need it to be perfect because what I plan to do is I'm going to take a plastic knife and to add some distress to it, to make it look even older, I'm just going to curl up those sides a bit before I adhere it down into the frame, into the doors. Yeah, you know, this is really fun. I love distressing edges like this. And you know, so what I do is whenever I get takeout and they send along the plastic utensils, I save them for if I ever happen to need plastic utensils, but also especially the knives for this purpose. There are tools you can buy that are like $10 to distress edges. And I say, why spend the money on it when a plastic knife will do the trick? You get the same effect, I think maybe even slightly better. And it's less expensive. So there's a little tip for you. There we go. So that part is done. I'm going to put my knife back in my caddy, and I'm going to grab the Vintage Photo Distress ink pad. It's a darker one, a little darker brown, and I'm going to rub the edges that we just distressed to get that on there. I think in my last video when I made the mixed media project with the Trey Jolie kit for June, I was calling it July. Yeah, July. So for June, I had talked about how much I love vintage style crafting. And I've received some really nice feedback from folks on Instagram and on Facebook about the projects I make that are vintage styled, and it's so nice to hear that that people enjoy it, because I certainly do as well. Now I'm just going to tap it just to get some random grunge on there. And so that picture is now done, and it's ready to fit into that particular space. And I'm going to get it to adhere down to there by using some Mod Podge. So I'm just going to clean off my brush. Actually, I don't need to use Mod Podge. I can, in fact, just use some regular craft glue. That'll be fine for this. So I'm just going to run it around that photo. Now, you could play around a bit, and if you wanted to like incorporate even more color, you could certainly like, you know, add coloring into it, or, you know, some color glazes over it, but I like it just the way it is. And it's a nice way to find to use this particular image. There. And then you just have to press that down. And once it's dry and stuck on there, you can just use your fingers to push up those edges a bit to kind of make sure that that distressing is showing. You may not want to, and that's fine. If in that case, you probably would have skipped that particular step, but that's fine. So there, now we have the picture in there, and we can close those doors, and we have to decide where it is that we want to go ahead and put these shutters. And you know, I think a lot of people would first go ahead and think, oh, just center it. But I actually want to put it in the corner here. And so that's where I'm going to put my shutters, is right over here in the corner, because I have other elements that I want to go over here. And I just think that that looks nice that way. And I can actually, I think I will use a little bit of a darker color on these shutters before I adhere them down, just because they do look a little light. And I wasn't going to paint them, but I think just running, yeah, that's going to do the trick. Just taking the tea stain ink pad and running it down a bit, just to make it look a little bit older. That's a great touch. I like that. Another thing you could do is you could very easily, like if you have a nice green patina color, you could put those coming down. Another little detail you could add is to mix a little bit of grit paste with some like a rusty color, and just like paint on a little bit of rust onto those hinges. That would look really cool. I may end up doing that. But you know, now I like the way that that looks. It looks older. It looks like it has some age on it. So now I want to get that adhered down. And in order to do that, the craft glue will work just fine, but what I'm going to do is use a combination of craft glue and some double-sided tape. My other videos, I talk about the fact that I think it's a stronger bond that you get with materials when you have the tape that's a little bit more of an instant bond. But then the glue, that helps you at least at first maneuver it a little bit. It gives it that flexibility. But then over time, it is, you know, more strong than the tape. And so the two together, I think, create a nice way to get these, to get things stuck onto your projects. You could use, like I said, the Mod Podge. You could use super glue. You could use any kind of glue like that, whatever it is that you like to use. I find though that the craft glue, I use the Barely Art craft glue, and it really does a good job of sticking. I just make sure that I get stuff into the corners and along the sides where there'll be a nice fit building up for that. So now that I have that on, I'm just going to grab this and make sure the doors don't come flying open. And I'm going to adhere that down to the corner. That looks like it's lined up nicely. So it's not uneven or anything. So there is that. And that looks great. Just going to put a little pressure on there to get that down there. Okay, next up is I need to start deciding what I want to do and use for my other elements. I had mentioned that I was going to use the butterflies chipboard as well as this floral chipboard. I've decided I'm going to save the floral for a card or cards. I have another idea, but I do want to get one of these butterflies on there. But of course, before doing that, I want to get some kind of color onto the butterfly. I have to say, I'm really impressed with the chipboard products from Trey Jolie that they cut themselves. They're really solid. And they do such a nice job with them. Now, you can decide whether or not you want to pop out these pieces or you leave them in. You might want to leave some in, you might want to pop some out. I'm actually leaning towards popping them out so that you can still see some of the background through it. And I am also going to get some color on there. So I'm going to pop these out, and they pop out really nicely because the machine, I guess, that they use in cutting these, it does a really great job. I mean, these, I've had some chipboard ephemera like this before, that when I've tried to get the pieces out, the whole thing cracks or falls apart. This is coming out so easily and so nicely. They're really great products to work with. I've really been impressed with them over the past couple of months. Almost done with getting these out of there. And I already know, too, the color that I want to use on this. And it's a paint that I have. I was down at an event on Cape Cod back in the spring called Crop on the Cape. And it's run by Jen Shirkus. And you may have heard of her. She's very well known in the card making community. And I met one of the vendors, Perfect Paints, really, really nice people. Became friends with them, and I bought several of their products, and that's what I'm going to use on this. I have to decide which side I want to use. I could do this, which looks a little bit more flat, but I like this because of the depth. There's a little bit more depth on that side, so that's what I am going to use to go ahead and the side I'm going to use to paint. So now that that is out of there, I'm going to grab, this happens to be my absolute favorite color from them, from Perfect Paints. It's called Vintage Patina. And I'm just going to shake it up. It is just such, I think I need a little bit more green, like the green there, but I want some more green represented in here. And so this paint it's just gorgeous. It adds a nice metallic shine, but also it's just so rich. It's gorgeous. So I'm gonna go ahead and use what's on the cover first, and I'm just going to get this painted on. Just to add that little, that vintage feel to it. Then I'm going to go ahead and get it dried so that we can go ahead and get that down onto our creation. Okay, my friends, so I have that beautiful butterfly painted. As you can see, it has like a goldy sheen, but it's also green. It's so pretty. I'm going to do something a little crazy. I admit it. This is something you may not want to do, but it's something that I think is going to look really cool. I'm going to use some of the Brutus Monroe Chroma Mist. And this particular one is Peacock. And it's going to add just that little bit of like almost a tarnished, like a hint of tarnish to this. So I'm just going to lightly, actually that spray, I have to press kind of hard on the spray. So instead, I'm going to take the sprayer off so that I can tap and just add some tarnish onto our butterfly. You don't need a lot. You just need a little. I want to get it though so that there's some going across the areas, because tarnish isn't uniform. It's not going to only be in one place or another. It can be around. So now I'm just going to go ahead and apply a little bit of heat to help that set a little more quickly. that's dry. Now, if you don't like the look of the, like that tarnished patina on there, and you'd rather rust, you could certainly use like an orangey and add rust onto there, but I think that looks really cool. I love it. And I want our butterfly to be up here towards the top, and I want it at an angle. So that's where I'm going to adhere our butterfly with some craft glue. I'm going to move that palette board out of the way because I don't want something to mistakenly get stained by it. But yes, that's where I'm going to go ahead and put our butterfly. I also had the sticker that I was going to use with the vintage advertisement, and I think I still will, but I think I'm going to put that over here. So let's start first with getting our beautiful butterfly, chipboard butterfly adhered down, and I'm just going to put that glue. By the way, if you don't have this glue press by My Sweet Petunia, I highly recommend it. It works so well. It comes with a bottle of glue already, and it's nice glue. It's the glue from Tonic, from the manufacturer Tonic Studios. But once that was done, because I use a lot of glue in my card making and my crafting, I went ahead and it comes with an empty bottle that you can also fill up. I filled that empty bottle up with my Barely Art glue, which is my favorite. And it just makes gluing so much easier. So I highly recommend this glue press by My Sweet Petunia. Everybody I know that has purchased it just absolutely loves it. It comes with a nice stand too, that you can keep it in. So really, really great product that came out towards the end of last year. Okay, so now we're going to put our butterfly down at the angle, get that adhered. We're almost done. There's really just a few more things to do. One of which is I want to, before cutting these apart, it's going to be easier if I go ahead and get some grunge onto, you knew I was going to say grunge, to get some grunge onto these sentiments before, and it doesn't have to be a lot, I just want a little bit there, before cutting them and adhering them down. So, and don't worry, I'm not going to waste this paper. This is going to go right into my scrap bin, and I'll use it for die cutting pieces. So don't worry, I am not wasting anything. Paper's really gone up in price, and I'm all about keeping the scraps. And the nice thing is that for this, again, I'm not looking for a really perfect cut. Matter of fact, what I think I'm going to use, just to make it more interesting, is I have this decal edge ruler that I love. I'm going to tear it using this instead of cutting everything, because then I can just distress that one side. But at least with this, it's going to not look perfect. It's going to have a really nice bit of character to it. I'm going to tear it out with this for the rest of it. You can cut this into two pieces, two strips if you'd like, and put one strip somewhere, another strip somewhere. I'm going to keep it together because I really like this saying. I know I must have heard it somewhere before, but it came to me as soon as I saw this house in the kit. Because, you know, I always think like, you know, home is where you have your family, where you have your memories, where all of those, you know, really good, holidays, and just hopefully, not everybody has that feeling. I don't want to sound, you know, like a Pollyanna here, but you know, Yeah, I think it's true that a house is filled with people, but a home is filled with memories. And, by saying memories, they could be bad. Maybe they're, you know, there are some, it's a mixture. Not everybody's the Waltons, but, hopefully they're good ones. Now, I didn't like the way that last piece tore with that. If it was just a little bit, I'd be fine with it, but I want to hold this down tighter to get that. There we go. That's good. So now we have our sentiment that we can go ahead and lay down there, as well as that sticker. I'm just going to put my decal ruler away. I think I want the sentiment to go there. That looks like a good spot. Right by the butterfly, right up by the roof line. That fits in there nicely. So that's one possibility. It's too long to go. No, it's actually, yeah, but we need to open the doors. So I'm not going to do that. Or I could put it down the bottom, but I like it up here. So that's what I'm going to do. But before doing that, I'm going to grab my tea stain distress ink, and I'm just going to put a little around the edges, just to give it a little bit of color. There. That looks really good. Now I'm just going to get some glue on there and get that stuck down. I really do feel like this is close to being done. There's that. Now, we have our sticker here. I don't know. Yeah, so if I put that over, you know what? We are going to be incorporating other flowers into this, so I think it's fine to cover up these flowers here. Yeah. What I do want to do, though, is there's this clear section on there. I want to trim that away. I don't like that. So I'm just going to take my scissors and just trim that clear section off. I love these vintage advertisements. They're so fun. One of the things I love to do when I get the I purchase a lot of the vintage publications that I buy actually off of Instagram. And there's a lovely vendor. Check out Ordinary Artifacts. She's really great. And I'll sit there and before, as I try to think about what I'd like to create and scan, I also go ahead and just read over the stories and read over the ads, and it's just so fascinating. There we go. I'm glad I cut that so that it doesn't cut off that flower there. That is what I wanted. So there is that. Okay, we're almost done. The last thing I need to do is decide on, I definitely want a couple of flowers on here. I think these are going to be too bright. So I'm going to instead use probably two of these. And I think, again, I don't want it too bright. I love the orange. And you know what? I think I'm going to bring in that smaller one. So we'll do one large flower, one small flower. Just going to get the box open. And I'm going to put them on the doors there. Of course, the ones I want to use are one's down this end and one's up the other end, but I will dig that out. Now, I do want to say that the card kit came with some beautiful flowers this month, but I'm actually going to hold off and use those on my cards. They're a little bit brighter too, so I don't want these to be too bright. But these colors go really well with it. So let me grab, so we're gonna do 1, 2. I think that looks really nice. These flowers are really nice. I love paper flowers. I have quite a few of them that I need to use. But what I do want to do, you're not going to be surprised by this, is just put a little bit of grunge onto the flowers to make sure that they look aged. Doesn't have to be a ton. You can skip this step if you want. You can add more if you want more. But I just feel like going around the petals like this, it blends it in. It adds that little bit of aging that I think they need. Just gonna go around those. There we go. So let's get these adhered down. For these, since there is the slats and the glue may not be enough, I am going to go ahead and grab a foam square, double-sided foam square. These particular foam squares from scrapbook.com aren't too thick. They're pretty thin, which is good because it will add a little bit of dimension, but it's also not going to be too much, because that's what I was worried about is too much, sticking up too much if I do this. In addition to sticking it down with that double-sided, I am still going to put a little glue on there just to make sure that it stays in place. I think I want to do the orange at the top over here and have it go like that. I don't want them side by side. I definitely want them at a juxtaposition. So let's go ahead and adhere that one down. The good news is these paper flowers, this particular brand, the Little Birdie, is they're very strong, and you can press, and as you can see, I'm pressing, and it's really not, it's not crushing it that much. And if you do, you can just use your finger to fluff and fix as you see fit. So there's that one. I need one more foam square for the smaller flower. We'll get that attached. Put some glue. And get that on there. I think there's one other thing that I'd really like to do that will also just help bring this together and give it just a little more pop and a little bit of shine. And that is, I'm going to put a couple of pearls on here. Just thinking about where I know I want them across from each other on the shutters. Put that there. And take another one. Now, I typically like to do gems and little, pearls and things like that in threes. To me, they belong in threes. I know a lot of designers are like that. So to accommodate that, I think I also have these really small, or these smaller ones. I shouldn't say really small. There are some tiny ones, but I'm going to go a size down and grab one that is just a little bit smaller. Get some glue on that and just press that down on the side. There. Perfect. All right, my friends. I am really happy with this project. I think it looks great. I am going to go ahead and add a hanger on the back. I don't know if it's going to be like a metal hanger or just a, I have this spool of leather. I could add a leather hanger onto the back of that. If you don't want to hang it, you could also like just really easily out of a thick cardboard make like a little kickback that it could lean against if you wanted to stand it up. I think that's really pretty though. I love the interactive nature of opening it up, and we have the picture in there. And we have the pearls. I love the addition of the butterfly with the patina on it. And I think the stenciling came out really nicely. That adds a nice little bit of texture to the background. So overall, I'm really happy with this. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope it inspired you to make your own. These kits are a lot of fun. I highly recommend that you check out Trey Jolie Kit Club. Their kits are amazing. There also is a scrapbook kit. I'm not a scrapbooker, but the elements look pretty cool, so I may end up having to get a scrapbook kit for card making and like using the elements in card making and in some mixed media projects like this. But that is it for this particular video. Please, if you enjoyed it, if you'd like to see more projects like this, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, by all means, drop it into the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, be well.